Hi everyone, I hope you're okay. It's the 29th of September 2024. I'm Gary Waterman. I'm a former UK police constable. I'm a Christian and a victim of this international government fraud. Now, I haven't disclosed this before, but over the last few months, I've been experiencing some slight health issues. So spinning, particularly when I'm laying down and moving my head around in bed. I've had this before or similar to it, and it was put down as vertigo. But more recently, as I've been investigating this, I've been having this happening to me. I've had a couple of cognitive issues as well. My concentration hasn't been quite as good as I would have liked to think. And there is so much evidence now suggesting that the communication systems that our governments have been implementing over the last several decades is responsible for most of probably the health issues that humans are experiencing, including cancer and other very serious health implications. We're going to look at that more in detail when I do the document in relation to adrenochrome and its links to the Stroke Foundation. But yesterday, the 28th of September, was very unusual because I was walking my dogs and literally I suddenly could not walk properly. And I almost felt like I was going to fall over. And I haven't had anything like that, certainly not to that extent. And anything close to that for a very long period of time. So I basically started to think, okay, there's potential that I've been targeted, and decided to sit against a tree and send the document that I sent, just in case anything was going to happen to me, because the importance of that evidence is critical that's coming out, and I'm going to explain that in the document. But more and more evidence is now coming to my attention that suggests that the directed energy weapons that appear to be integrated into our communication systems are able to specifically target individuals through their devices, as well as potentially from other methods, such as from the my dog's knocking the table, from mobile communication masts, etc. Now, obviously, a few years ago, I would have said all of this is science fiction and none of it is possible, but there is now so much evidence in relation to this. The government are actually publicising directed energy weapons. One of them, for example, being a Dragonfire that was developed using defence contracted companies that are part of this fraudulent system. And there's research to suggest that MK Ultra or even mind control through MK Ultra experimentations on the masses without them even knowing, through subliminal messaging, through pharmaceuticals, and through television, even music, and through radiation, directed radiation, has been going on for a very long time. And David Cameron's grandfather was actually linked to that, according to the research, and also specifically torture techniques, experimental torture techniques as well. The research that I've done in relation to MK Ultra and MK Search, which is what it changed its name to, then links in through to my research of David Cameron. And as we know, he was brought back in as a Lord and the Foreign Secretary as I was exposing all of this evidence, which I don't think is a coincidence. And there's a very clear connection between the directed energy threat that we're now all facing and the child trafficking, and the fraud is being used as a vessel for the whole lot. It's all linked through to the vaccines, to the World Trade Center disaster, and pretty much every problem that we're seeing on the planet right now. And it's going right back to this, the heart of the problem, the creation of these illegal entity and corporations through the forgery of their registers and their documents by our very own governments. But let's have a look at some information to support the concerns of this directed energy. These are sections taken from a book that someone very kindly purchased and sent me screenshots of some of the pages. The book is called The Transhuman Genocide. I had no connection whatsoever to this book other than it being sent to me. But let's have a look at what it says. And it's in no particular order, these screenshots. And I don't want to scare anyone at all, but it is starting to appear that this book is potentially very accurate in what's happening. It says, this connection between technology and disease is related to how EMF, that's electromagnetic frequency, which is the technology supposedly used within the mobile communication system, affects individual cells and immune system. Radiation-induced damage to the immune system leads to a form of immune deficiency similar to AIDS that allows other diseases to flourish, including cancers. It's why power lines are so closely associated with leukemia. White blood cells are highly sensitive to radiation, and since power lines are literally giant 60 hertz antennas that propagate ELF. Restrictions had to be put in place to contain the damage they caused to levels that were demanded as acceptable losses. Another section here. Radiation exposure is much more dangerous than most people think. And of course, the government know this, and we're going to look at how we can be sure they know it and why they're deliberately doing this. Despite assurances that it's safe and effective as the vaccines, electromagnetic radiation negatively affects the human's body in many ways and is not only harmful to the immune system, but has devastating long-term effects on the nervous system as well. This is the main reason why every pandemic related to technology either affects the nervous system, like polio and West Nile, or compromises the immune system to make common colds such as H1N1 much worse. Now, aside from this book, I've seen other evidence, significant evidence that suggests there's a correlation between the release of communication systems and a publicized virus. Okay, so we have to consider very seriously that those are fake viruses to cover up the deliberate technology that's harmful to many of us. Reading on. And of course, research suggests, as I've said before, that the very first mobile communication mast was set up by Marconi on the Isle of Wight, okay, where all of the child trafficking connections link back to where there's connections to my company, Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, or the company I was part of, shall we say, and where forged bank documents were acquired. So it's a complete criminal system connected to all of this, including energy. Okay, reading on. When EMF hits the brain, it not only attacks the nerve cells, it also interferes with the very brainwaves responsible for thinking. Okay, victims gradually get worse over time. Their exposure rates are sustained or increased, and as a result, a type of syndrome sets in. Victims become zombified or cognitively decline, and then get crushed by the extreme. I didn't get the next bit. Now, this is all connected to Hollywood. Okay, the adrenochrome, all of this evidence is linking back to Hollywood. It links back to Hollywood via individuals within my company heavily implicated in this. Okay, and they obviously appear to have been showing us what they are going to be doing us. There's been a lot of zombie movies, hasn't there? So that has to be considered, that this is what they are showing us within this. This is another page here. So ASE devices produce a high energy laser pulse like a laser blaster weapon from the movies instead of prolonged beam weapon. In an ASE device, a projector is used to produce photons until they reach their laser threshold in the optical cavity and are amplified through in an inverted medium. These lasers can become hugely powerful in the petawatt range and can be found in places like CERN. Okay, at its core, they are also well known as Polaris lasers and have a wide range of weapon applications similar to FEL lasers. Now, CERN is very significant. It's starting to become even more significant in my evidence, and that's because there is strong evidence now to suggest that there is an ancient Egyptian pharaoh origin behind this evil, and that they are now based in Switzerland. Okay, and this is why we're probably seeing the World Economic Forum basing their meetings out of there. And of course, this is where CERN is based. And if you look at the symbol of CERN, okay, in its symbol, it's got 3 6s twisted round into their emblem of CERN. Very, very significant, I would think. Bearing in mind, we've got the satanic element behind all of this, it appears. And this is a battle between good and evil, people. We need to understand that. And these individuals carrying on with this need to know what is at stake for them. All right. Now, if they want to carry on with their evil ways, they've either got to carry on and commit themselves to what I think is very clearly becoming an eternal problem for them if they decide to carry on what they're doing. Or they can save themselves, okay, and go back to the moral integrity that was given to them by their creator. They wouldn't do anything to themselves like what they're doing. They wouldn't steal from themselves. Generally, most of them wouldn't want to be stolen from when they are defrauded. These people have gone well away from their moral integrity and have turned to very evil, sinister means. Everything we're now seeing is the opposite of good, isn't it? And whatever you want to call that, okay, that appears to be what these people are involved in. Reading on. This is the reason why they are terraformed. Now, this is a very very advanced element of what this could be leading to. Okay, I'm not suggesting this is necessarily true, although it's starting to appear that way. And this sounds awful. But I think it's something we do need to consider. This is the reason why they're terraforming the planet with chemtrails. Okay, we're all aware of the skies being sprayed with substances, or many of us are. Transforming organic life into GMOs, genetically modified. Targeting wildlife with mRNA, which is obviously within the vaccines. Gene alerting vaccines, dosing the water supply with fluoride and chemical spills. There's so much evidence that this is happening. They're poisoning the water. They do this and so much more so that organic humans won't be able to survive what's coming. They want to make everything in the future so horrific that assimilation will look like the best option. The tech industry cult and its minions have already become a breakaway civilization and will soon remake society in their own image, just like the movies Blade Runner and Terminator. Okay, we've just been talking about the movies. And The Matrix. While these movies weren't meant to scare us with nightmares, to scare us with nightmare scenarios, tech gurus and the left view this type of dystopian future as their religion. Okay, they view it as their type of religion. This is very satanical, everyone. Everyone needs to realize this is the opposite of what our creator created, the opposite of nature, the opposite of moral integrity, of making sure that we do right over wrong, to not victimize individuals, etc. These people are coming as far away from that as possible. Any reading on, their aim is to assimilate mankind, and so this will lead to the extermination of organic humanity as we know it, in very much the same way as the Europeans wiped out the Native Americans. Genocide and enslavement are nearly always the hallmarks of more advanced civilizations meeting less advanced civilizations. If you think these people on the left look hostile now, just wait until their robots patrol the streets, enforce lockdowns, and replace you at work. Now, we need to realize this is very close to happening. Okay, they are very clearly trying to imminently move to full digital currency control. If that happens, people, then they are very close to achieving this goal, if this is what they're wanting to do. And there's so much evidence to support this. Reading on anyway, so the nightmare of directed energy weapons. Weaponized electromagnetic frequency can come from every direction, even from underground, and can rain down from planes, satellites, weather, balloons, blimps and drones. While some people may only worry about the towers and smart meters, other people are trying to survive massive attacks from modern day energy weapons. You've only got to look at what appears to be have been a directed energy weapon in Maui and other locations. That is appearing to be the case of what has happened. These weapons have been systematically deployed in every city and in every town, and extended into the countryside, even in remote locations. And they've integrated it into our telecommunication systems deliberately, it appears. Now, this is similar to what I've already mentioned this before, but it's interesting to see it in a book, and I've only recently seen this. The current deployment of energy weapons is so massive that it is now impossible to escape the death grid. I actually don't believe that. I still have hope that if the people start now, and it has to be now, start disabling the masts, coming away from the telecommunications systems and the smart meters, the wireless mobile interfaces that we have, if we start disabling that and going back to local community-based engagement and produce and sharing of work, of trades, etc., we may seriously have to do this very, very soon. My advice very soon is going to be to everybody remove any finances they have from the banks, okay, to come out of this evil system and start trading with that money that's in existence locally in local communities. And if there are people that haven't got those finances, then they can do that with their trades, their skills, or their belongings, etc., and getting back to local produce, okay, local food supplies. This is going to probably have to happen. Unfortunately, it sounds awful that we're going to have to go back to almost the dark age of almost surviving. But you know, we've got to save the children, and we need to save our families. Reading on anyway. The current deployment of Death Grid, nearly everything connected to the internet has been weaponized, including cell phones and cell towers. Now, this is important. There's a guy I'm working with, or certainly in communication a lot with, fantastic person called Aaron Mackey, and he has a meter, and he is providing evidence that the emissions, from the mobile phones are increasing massively very, very recently. Okay, even with the phone not in use, they are way above the safe levels. And he's shown videos of this. But they're able to do this through certain phones in target individuals, which we'll come to in a minute, and could well be happening to me and others that obviously want to expose the truth. These devices have been programmed to track and kill using beamforming 5G technology and use targeting software that is integrated into factory level or hacked in by the NSA. Anyone who has a microwave oven knows what electromagnetic radiation can do. This safe and non-ionizing form of radiation can actually cook raw meat, and in its weaponized form it can kill in mere seconds. Exposure to safe forms of radiation like microwave have been linked to everything from cancer. And you've only got to look at the masks that have gone outside of schools. Okay, there's various articles now coming up where children have been diagnosed with cancer, and they're still putting these masks up. Okay, exposure to safe forms of radiation like microwave have been linked to everything from cancer to flu-like symptoms. Cities are now flooded with never seen before levels of radiation, and as a result, cancer rates have exploded. I heard the other day that it's now 1 in 2 people, I believe in the UK, maybe the world, I think it's the UK, that will get cancer. I think it's pretty sure it's going to be related to this technology. Cancer rates have doubled and even tripled in some categories since the rollout of 5G technology. And while many other eugenics programs are partly to blame, radiation exposure is the ultimate trigger for most cancers and diseases in the modern day. Every new era of technology has sparked a new era of disease. As the first generations of cellular technology rolled out in about 1980, 1G in brackets, the H1N1 outbreak was everywhere in the news. Okay, now the media are involved in this. Remember, they're part of this system of fraud that's being used for the vessel of all of this. Reading on, when 2G cellular technology came out in 1991, it made many people sick, and the television called the outbreak a mysterious wave of cholera. Okay, in 1999, interesting, 2 years before the World Trade Center disaster, as 3G cellular technology was going up nationwide, the outbreak of West Nile disease started making headlines. West Nile, of course, is a neurological disease. This grid of energy weapons is being used by governments, I don't know if I can read this actually because the screenshot goes around, secretly targeting people that have woken up, okay, to the deceptions, propaganda and indoctrination. They're not just silencing people, can't read this, sorry, I haven't done this very well, online through censorship. They're taking people out with energy weapons in an asymmetric war against the truth. The aim of the weapons is to purify voter demographics and to eliminate dysentery with a type of social credit score system that is enforced, and futuristic weapons and other forms of punishments. Their method of choice is to silence influencers like myself that post regularly online with censorship, so that people, which I've been censored massively, have you noticed a lot of these other groups are not being censored, okay, they're able to build and promote their potential misinformation, misdirection, getting hundreds, thousands, sometimes, if not millions of followers. Russell Brand is one example, and he's massively linked to this fraud. I've received further evidence yesterday linking him, and today there was a video someone sent me of him with P. Diddy, okay, on a phone, which I've now got. The aim of and we know about the P. Diddy stuff coming out at the moment, it's all linked to this, okay? The aim of these weapons is to purify voter demographics, etc. Their method of choice is to silence influencers that post regularly online, so I've read this, so that people will forget about them, and then the system attacks the victim with energy weapons to cause cancers and other diseases. This is done discreetly in many cases, and the victim has no idea they're being targeted. The assassination looks natural, raise little concern, and nobody cares, and the victim screams. Otherwise, the victims would protect themselves and the killings would be splashed everywhere on the internet. We've compiled a long list of online activists that have been assassinated by these systems over the past few years, and then they've given some names. And they're saying they've been killed by energy weapons. Now, I have information, first of all, from someone that was actually sat next to Gordon Bowden, who was starting to get into the realms of what I'm exposing, and they told me he was poisoned. I've heard from others that he likely was killed by directed energy weapons to cause cancer to him. Reading on, the COVID 5G connection is just one of the many examples of how electrified technology is linked to disease. COVID exploded onto the scene world stage right after the rollout of 5G, and while this may seem irrelevant to most, the emergence of new technologies have been linked to pandemics and have been used by the elites for occult purposes since the days of polio and the Spanish flu. The occult love using safety as a pretext for control, and everything they do revolves around the problem, reaction, solution. Okay, I mentioned this the other day. I can't remember the actual words for it. This is it. Okay, so they create the problem, i.e. cancer. I believe they've deliberately created cancer through this system of fraud. They then create the solution, okay, the health effects, health system, the chemotherapy. That is linked to the fraud, people. The National Health Service is part of this fraudulent system, okay, and they then, they then create the reaction. So obviously the people then react and worry about it. They want something done. They create the solution in the National Health Service and the method of treating cancer. But it's all part of it because they then defraud the public. They cause the harm, create the solution, get us all to pay more tax through into this system of fraud. Remember, they're able to defraud us all through the taxation system in this fraud, and they're winning always. So they're actually harming us, it appears, with this evidence, or having the ability to, and then also then defrauding us through the system of the health service and the fraud that's in place. In the early 1900s, reading on, as electricity rolled out into the cities and rural communities, people began experiencing polio-like symptoms, neurological diseases in brackets, due to electromagnetic pollution from transmission lines and wiring. As radio towers rolled out and peaked into nationwide broadcast in the 1920s, the Spanish flu emerged and ravaged society in the exact same way COVID did. While infectious agents and other factors may have been part of the pandemic equation, electromagnetic frequencies exposure made these diseases exponentially worse. Every wireless technology upgrade since the Spanish flu has been linked to an exotic virus epidemic or a type of neurological disease. The rollout of TV broadcasting brought polio back into the scene, and it stayed in the news for decades as the rollouts of radar and satellite, in brackets weather balloon transmissions, plummeted society with increased levels of radiation. It wasn't a vaccine that cured polio. It was the die-off of people that were biologically sensitive to the new levels of radiation that cured polio. People have different tolerances to radiation, like the way they different tolerances to alcohol. And I've spoken to various people that are being massively affected by the levels of radiation at the moment. We're talking burns on the skin, neurological problems, and these are with the lower levels, okay, that are being transmitted to everybody, but they're going up. But it does allow the ability to target individuals according to the research through their devices. Skeptics may be surprised to discover that the establishment has already found the politically correct term for your assimilation, and assassination, transhumanism. It means transitioning yourself from a human into a cyborg. The fine print, of course, is that these future assimilated cyborgs will be controlled by a central computer to form a collective hive and or single consciousness, the singularity. They call it transhuman, but what they really are is the Borg, or anti-human. It's anti-human, okay? What's the opposite of anti-human? Moral conscience given to us. It's evil, isn't it? It's the opposite of good. It's the opposite of nature that is by our creator. This is why they're trying to remove faith outside of mankind so they can implement this plan. There's so much evidence in relation to that. While many people see this threat coming, most believe it is still decades away. Unfortunately, artificial intelligence thinks at nearly the speed of light, and its progress towards worldwide assimilation is far beyond where most people think it is. While we've been distracted by lockdowns, wars and politics, the AI, artificial intelligence-driven transhumanist consortium, has been quietly developed and rolling out energy weapons in a grid-like pattern from coast to coast in preparation for war, and has already begun assassinating dissidents that oppose the new cyborg world order. The takeover, ladies and gentlemen, has not only begun, it is now entering its final stages. Now, this is very likely happening, okay? Can it be stopped? Absolutely. Does that need to start happening now? Yes, it does. Running out of time, people. You need to start disabling the technology, getting back to community engagement, going and speaking to your neighbours, okay, getting local food produce, come away from this corrupt, evil, criminal government. It's very clear they're criminals. Absolutely 100%. We are living in a criminal system that is victimising most, okay, causing unimaginable suffering to children and to all of us as well through this system, through financial suffering and psychological targeting and physical targeting by these systems. Now, we all need to unite over this. I can't say this enough, and we need a collective strategy, okay? I've completed a collective strategy with all of the evidence that I've got. I've put down on paper a document so everyone can see what I think they should be doing. They just need to start doing it. Of course, people may not agree with this, and I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to people saying, Gary, what about this in a strategy? No one's done that so far who has looked at this, okay? And this appears to be, in my mind, with the evidence that I've got, the only way of moving forward. So this document's available for everyone, but I want to get to the point because we're talking about the specific directed energy weapons. I'm just going to look at a few points on here for those that haven't read this so that people understand the other evidence to suggest that this is the threat to us all, the most imminent threat. Just got to find it. Sorry about that. Here we go. It's on page 9, if anyone wants to read it. And I'm going to read some of these to you. Here are some of the information supporting the concerns of this threat and my claims. The first one, I have conducted an interview with a former BT Openreach engineer who supports the concerns. Company's house shows that BT Openreach links significantly to the fraud, and members of Export Manor Freehold Limited, the company where the forgery started for me. It also links through to Pegasus, which is appearing to be an Israeli spyware company, okay, which is very sinister, and it can interrogate devices. Okay, now there's a lot of work going on in relation to that, and I've got more information later. But reading on, information suggests Wuhan, China, had previously installed a mobile communication system prior to the supposed initial COVID deaths, deaths there, and this was where COVID outbreaks supposedly began, and that ties into that book, okay, and there's other evidence corroborating that. UK government appear to be hiding debates around 5G mobile communications technology, and their own website suggesting there has been no debate at all around 5G when this cannot have been the case with such previous controversy. Now, if you go onto the government website, you can search parliamentary debates, go and search 5G, see what comes up. Nothing came up. Okay, now that can't be the case and shows they're trying to hide the threat. We have to consider they're trying to hide the threat. The UK government, I've done that bit. Where are we? There is significant connections to the fraud and the Nicola Buddy case, whose husband worked in a company involved in creating a directed energy weapon around the same time of her death. It's possible she was informed about the depopulation plan using this technology and was going to tell the world. There's a lot of evidence in relation to that. And funny enough, her husband has recently come out with some quite significant information publicly starting to come out. And I do suggest he does, all right, for his sake, all right. It's very clear that there is, I believe, a creator now allowing this evidence to all be exposed. That is what has enabled me to expose this, is my faith, 100%, okay, against all of the odds. I'm accepting that I may not survive this, that I'm going to be targeted, I may be killed, but I must. It's the only right thing to do, isn't it? When children are at stake and the future of mankind is at stake through an evil system, it's the only option available. And that's what we should all be doing. Come away from the fear, everyone. Okay, significant people speaking out about the vaccines are unwilling to expose the obvious connections to the fraud, vaccines, child trafficking, directed energy threat, and the possible depopulation event, whilst evidence shows that they themselves are linked to the fraud and vaccine companies or directed energy companies. There's loads of these groups. Okay, I'm finding evidence that have got followers and numbers. The peace officers, you know, the rapid response company that I've found. Evidence to this, evidence to energy companies. They're not willing to expose the evidence that I've got. It's very clearly relevant to everything that they're talking about. They're supposedly, I'll say, anti-government or opposition to what the government are doing. Of course you'd want evidence like this if you're really... but they're connected to it. They're connected to the fraud and they're connected to the directed energy weapons, okay? So they appear to be part of it. They're trying to enable this to carry on. And that goes the same with many YouTubers who have big followings. People that I've been interviewed by are linked to this, okay? And some of those individuals are not letting me be interviewed again as I'm exposing this, the irrefutable evidence. Okay, there's so much evidence now, and these these groups and individuals appear to have been specifically put in place by the people behind all of this, and there's connections to them, as I've said. Anyway, reading on, significant people speaking out about the vaccines are unwilling to expose the obvious connections. 650 members of parliament and almost all police forces are completely ignoring the vast irrefutable evidence of the directed energy threat and the child trafficking. Now, I've sent reports to nearly all forces, 650 MPs, as I've said. All of them are just completely ignoring it. It's very clear evidence there that is verifiable and corroborative. They're dissolving companies all over the place, including Russian-linked intelligence agency companies linked to the UK government as well, and the monarchy. So they know exactly what they're part of, and the fact that they're silent and they're not saying anything suggests they are biding their time to implement whatever it is they're planning, and it isn't going to be good for most people, I believe. And this includes Trump and Putin. Okay, none of them are providing the appropriate measures to stop this, to save the children, through the financial system being transparent. None of them. All right, they can't be trusted until they do that, in my mind. Councils appear to be presenting safety certificates that were created by dissolved companies, meaning there is no accountability and liability for the risks. Think about this. Why would the councils be doing that? Okay, this is fraud. To produce a safety certificate and knowingly avoid explaining that and providing suitable safety certificates for this technology. It's clear they know what threat it is. Okay? They are conspiring to commit murder. It's as simple as that. By the very fact that they are allowing these false safety certificates to mean there is no protection to individuals around it. There is absolutely justification in that alone for the people to go and disable this technology right now to save their family. They appear to be expediting erecting this technology outside of schools, despite there being significant evidence to suggest children are previously being quickly diagnosed with cancer where having done so. I've already mentioned that. A report on the correlation of worldwide excess deaths prior to and since COVID suggests that the mobile communication systems could be the cause. Now, there's a Norwegian that's done a specific report that suggests that. He's done graphs and everything, and he's not the only one. Lots of people are making this correlation between it. And in fact, I do suspect that the COVID and the vaccines are all a smokescreen to allow this to continue. Pensions appear to be being pulled around the directed energy weapons companies, and there will be billions of pounds worth of unclaimed pensions available through this fraud in the event of a depopulation. I think this is a massive part of this, okay? Of course, the pension systems fraud linked to it enables the ability to then take that money. Okay, so if someone's died before they claim their pension and they don't have a beneficiary, or they do and the beneficiary dies as well, then that pension can then be claimed through this system of fraud. Okay, I think that's a huge motive for this. Reading on, there are signs of a possible significant fake virus being publicised. Now, they started to bring out bird flu. Then now they've started to mention monkeypox, and the vaccine that's supposedly going to use on people. The evidence suggests that those that have been vaccinated by that can then transmit harmful diseases or viruses to those that haven't been vaccinated. I mean, my goodness me. Not only that, I've got the evidence that the company that produced that vaccine is linked to this system of fraud, okay? A legal entity creation. There's no accountability and liability. Reading on, those involved in this fraud linked to significant information, including a possible inverted company name of De-Extinction Limited within the Sage Group companies that managed the COVID outbreak and is significantly implicated in the fraud. I've got the evidence showing this. Okay, it's linked to all banks, linked to mortgage companies, pension companies, back to everything that I've been talking about through this Sage Group company that also then links to the police and military radio systems and Pegasus. I haven't released that document yet, but it is there and being worked on. It also links back to links being established to a doomsday cult via Julian Assange. Okay, the Julian Assange via WikiLeaks, he was the founder for WikiLeaks, links back massively to the fraud and to loads of illegal entity child care companies and nursery companies. Loads of them. Okay, WikiLeaks also appears to link through to the Hampstead child abuse inquiry, which I've got the evidence for. Reading on, towards the end of 2023, a government website publicised moves to expedite the implementation of new versions of the mobile communication systems into stadiums and other public places. The research from a company mentioned links back to members of Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited and to real estate companies in Poundbury, an area owned by the royals, or specifically owned by Prince Charles and then the King. And as I'm exposing this, he changes it and Prince William takes ownership of that land. Because they're panicking about all of this, and so they should be. You know, they're fully exposed, but it doesn't look like they're stopping. Reading on, those that have large followings are drawing crowds to public events, such as Katie Hopkins and Tommy Robinson, who, with his previous name of Stephen Laxley, I can't remember his name, sorry. He's got a previous name that links to the fraud. So they link to the fraud, and they're refusing to assist in publicly exposing this fraud and its connections and its significant links to government and police corruption, despite them seemingly trying to expose government and police corruption themselves. Okay, and I'm a former police constable. I've got this evidence. I've been trying to contact them. People have actually spoken to Katie Hopkins and asked her personally to contact me. I know that Tommy Robinson has my mobile number because I've got an email from his team confirming it. He's refusing to contact me. Read into that what you will, guys, okay? But it's very clear in my mind that they are there, part of this, and trying to draw crowds into locations which puts those crowds at significant risk. Reading on, information shows that the world's first, I've already mentioned this, the world's first communications mast was erected on the Isle of Wight, where JP Morgan had involvement, and where an important and relevant member of Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, the company that I was part of, had a significant role within the NHS. Companies House shows that healthcare systems are part of this fraudulent system, and therefore anyone involved with them have a motive to create health problems to defraud the masses through the justification of funneling more tax contributions through the healthcare system and this fraudulent process that is in place. There's a lot more of other stuff, but that is some of the evidence in relation to it. It's quite overwhelming. All of this is evidence and backed up from various sources to confirm it. People, we need to really start acting. All right, really, really do. Hopefully that will make sense. God bless you all. Take care.